Let's look at what happened to calculation task B now. We see that there is no special interrupt handling code written here. The call method, however, declares that it can throw exception, which means that it can throw any type of checked exception, including interrupted exception as well. When the sleep is interrupted, the call method throws interrupted exception, which seems to have been handled internally by the executor service itself, as we do not see any sign of this exception in the console output. We will come back to it a little later. Let us look at rest of the output in the console. Here we see the message all threads terminated equal to false. This means that during the 500 milliseconds that we waited for the tasks to terminate, not all the tasks had terminated then. This is obvious, as we see that loop task A was still executing after that. Let us increase the waiting time to 5000 milliseconds and see the output for this particular message again. This time we see that it prints all threads terminated equal to true. This is indeed right, as loop task A has also finished during our waiting time. The other 4 tasks had already terminated. Coming back to the main program again, we have used 3 callable tasks but haven't yet coded to look at their result after being terminated. So let us do that. First, we need to capture the future instances that are returned when we submit the callables to the executor service. After that, we are going to add some sysouts to display their results after being terminated. Now calculation task B returns an instance of future that has a generic type of task result. Our changes are done. Let's give it a ride again. So the output at the top is fine, just as expected. and all threads terminated equal to true. After that, we have printed the results. Factorial task B and calculation task C both return -1. This is because we have coded them so. In both the tasks, when an interrupt occurs, we are setting the result as -1. So we are handling the interrupt correctly in both these tasks. Always remember to set the result to something that represents the could not finish calculation or was interrupted midway scenarios. Now we see a very strange thing here. When we try to retrieve the result for calculation task B, we encounter an exception, specifically execution exception. It is occurring on line number 50. So we have a t5 future.get method here, and we know that get method can throw an execution exception. The cause of this execution exception is shown to be an interrupted exception in the stack trace below it, and this interrupted exception has occurred in calculation task B at line number 33. So this is thrown when the sleep is interrupted. So this is where that interrupted exception ended, when calculation task B was interrupted and it terminated abruptly without showing anything in the output. The executor service was internally storing this exception somewhere, and when we try to retrieve the result, this exception is wrapped in an execution exception and thrown again. So let us correct our code to handle the execution exception properly. So let us run it again. So this time we have handled it correctly, as the message in our catch block is printed in the output properly along with the cause of execution exception. This we already knew in this case to be an interrupted exception, of course. Now that being said, note that the get method also throws two more kinds of exceptions: cancellation exception and interrupted exception. Cancellation exception is thrown when the computation is cancelled by invoking cancel method of the future, and interrupted exception is thrown when the current thread that is blocking on get to retrieve the result is interrupted. Both these exceptions should also be handled properly in your code. With that, we have come to the end of this tutorial. This was quite a long one, but interesting, I hope. I would suggest that you do some experiments on your own too, on all the concepts that we have learned so far in this course. This will definitely help you to get still better understanding and will etch the concepts in your memory still deeper. See you in the next video now. Till then, happy coding. Bye.